Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed finding out what your love language was. We often find that our love languages may be different than what we expected, but it's not about learning so much about what your love language is, but about what your spouse's love language is, because often we will give love in the way we like to receive it, but that's not necessarily the way that they like to receive it. So when we know what our spouse's love language is, it means that we can actively invest in that area.
That's right.
Isn't that right? Yeah.
And then we'll be more effective and we won't be just thinking we're doing the right thing, but we're not really even getting close to the mark. Yeah.
So in this session, I'd just like to talk about something that we call a love bank. Now, it's a bit like a bank where you put money, but in a love bank, you will invest in your spouse and you will put deposits in, won't you?
Yep.
And also
Withdrawals.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
And if we make too many withdrawals, we end up causing bankruptcy, just like in your normal bank account. If you just only put a little bit of money in here and there and you're continually taking out, you're going to get to the point where there's absolutely nothing left. So when we were first going out, as you do a lot of investing in your relationship because you're wanting to please that person. You're looking to get to a place where they would like you enough to marry you. And then we get married and then often we just run out of time. We focus on different things. We often focus on buying a house and improving our job and maybe investing in investments. And we have children who take away our focus from one another and we forget to invest. And because we just don't often have time and we don't focus on this relationship. And so then we end up making a lot of withdrawals. We have a lot of expectations on our spouse. We expect them to do this and to do that without being asked. We just expect them to produce certain things, and when we don't give anything back to them for what they do, we end up actually just causing basically this sense of being distant from one another.
It's like feeling like you're just being used.
Yeah.
Instead of really appreciating one another.
Yeah. And often comments come out like, you're treating me, you think I'm your mother or
Slave
or something like that, And then if thinking those things and making those sort of comments, it just really means that we haven't been doing enough investing in each other's love banks. And so, Ian, what are some of the Bible actually has something to say about this, and it's in Luke chapter 6. He talks about God and also ourselves. So if we could read Luke chapter 6. That would
so we've talked in other sessions about the Bible being like an instruction manual for marriage, and in this case it's no different. So in Luke chapter 6, it says, "Help and give without expecting a return." Now that's radical, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon. We always expect a
Would
return.
you go and put your money in the bank and not expect a return?
No.
But this is what the Bible's saying. He said, Jesus was talking here. He said, "You'll never, I promise, regret it. Live out this God-created identity the way our Father, this is our Father in heaven, lives towards us, generously and graciously, even when we're at our worst. Our Father is kind, so you be kind." And he goes on to say, don't pick on people, so don't pick on your spouse. And we can do this, can't we? We get hurt and we will pick on each other.
Yep.
Don't pick on people, jump on their failures, criticise their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. We talk about sowing and reaping. We don't, it says, as you sow, so shall you reap. And so we don't want that criticism and that nitpicking coming back on us. So don't do it.
Yeah. And I think as women, we are fairly bad at that because we often expect things out of our spouse, and when they don't produce what we have in our heart, we start telling them how they're getting it all wrong. It's not really that helpful, and because all it makes a man feel is like he's disrespected.
That's right, yeah. So Jesus goes on to say, don't condemn those who are down. That hardness can boomerang. I love this Message version.
Yes.
It's a real Australian term, isn't it? Can certainly come back and hit you in the head. So, so be easy on people. You'll find life a lot easier. And this is a radical thought. He says, give away your life. You'll find it given back. But not merely given back, but given back with bonus and blessing.
Yeah.
Giving, not getting, is the way.
Yeah. So if you want a really happy relationship, you've got to come from that point of view, which is that you need to actively sow or actively invest in your spouse. Because if you do that, you actually are going to get your investment will multiply and it will return back to you. So we need to talk about what type of things we can invest. And, we are people with needs and we need to feel that we are loved. So what are some of the ways, Ian, that we can actually show love to one another? What are some of the things that you've done or some of the things that you know that would actively bless me and that a man needs to maybe think about to actively bless his wife?
Well, I think it's, for starters, you've had a look at your love languages. That's a good place to start. Look at the top few things that is your wife's love language,
Yep.
and think about the way that you can invest in those.
Yep.
For me, it's simply doing things around the house. I'll help out with the washing occasionally, even though Jane does a lot of that. I'll certainly put the dishwasher on.
Yep.
I'll help make the bed.
Yep.
Just actively do things around the house that actually bless her. And do things for her. Because, Jane's top one is, acts of service. Quality time. It might be going out for a walk on the beach, actually having that date once a week where you actually decide to actually go out and actually spend that quality time together. You don't have to spend a lot of money, just a cup of coffee or just even a walk in the park or down the beach. It makes a world of difference. But really, in a busy life, you do need to plan to do that, don't you? To actually lay down your life, even though you might not want to do it because you've been working all day or you're just tired, you don't feel like doing it, but, bless one another. So, Jane, what are some of the things that, as a blessing to men quite often?
Well, because often physical touch is one of the top ones in men. We've found that from doing a lot of these love language tests. It isn't always, but men really receive that sense that they're loved through investing in physical touch. So the top one of that would have to be your sexual intimacy. Men don't feel loved if their wife does not want to engage in sexual intimacy with them. And so that is one of their top things. And it's a very, very important area of your life. But also things like back rubs and foot massages and just cuddling on the couch and just
I love it when you cut my hair.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing, but wow, that really blesses me when she cuts my hair.
That's it. And I would not think of that in myself as being something that would show love to my husband. But just even like every morning when Ian wakes up, he has the first shower, and when I know he's hopped out of the shower, I just go and give him a hug. And that just makes him feel like I notice him, that he's valuable to me, and he is valuable to me. And another thing I think you really need to do, and this is science backs this up, is you need to look into each other's eyes and spend time just looking at each other and actually engaging with each other and not being so busy that you don't actually have time to actually notice the other person. So when you're going to work or when you're coming and going, just make sure you give each other a hug, a kiss, something that is going to invest into that physical
So
side
you love
of the
each other.
relationship.
If words of affirmation are your thing, you will appreciate, your wife or husband saying, thank you for what you've done today. Notice these things. Actively look for ways to actually lay down your life and give out. And so, Jane, we've looked at the different ways that we can deposit into our love bank. What are some of the withdrawals that you can think of?
Well, withdrawals are also related to those areas in which we really feel into our love bank. So if we really need words of affirmation, usually we find that the area that we'll feel most robbed is if our spouse uses harsh and cruel words on us. There's critical words and things that will just actually really make us feel bad about ourselves. When maybe they're angry with us or they feel that we haven't met their expectation, we start to say things to them that we really shouldn't say. So that may not affect someone who's maybe their most important love language is gifts, because they'll feel loved if you have gifts, but it will affect the person we all get affected by negative words,
yes.
but it will affect the person whose love language is in words of affirmation more. So if your love language is in the area of gifts and your husband couldn't care less about gifts, and Valentine's Day comes and no gift, birthday comes, no gift, Christmas comes and no gifts, or he might just give the wrong sort of gifts. He might just give you something that he wants and not something that blesses you. He may just give the wrong type of gift because he thinks that this is what you would like, and he's never really asked you or investigated to find out, does that type of gift bless you? And women can be fairly tricky. I'm talking about from the woman's point of view here. Like a woman might love having a gift of perfume, but if you don't give her the right type of perfume, the one that's the fragrance that she really loves, well, then you're going to actually not hit the mark. So my suggestion is for men, ask a lot of questions. It's always, or listen very carefully for clues as to specifics within these areas, or just ask her outright. Because really, if you don't quite hit the mark in the right thing, it's just still not going to bless, and it will make a withdrawal. And so other areas that you can, obviously, if physical touch is very important, and you never make love, you never touch one another, you never spend any time hugging or holding hands or anything like that, that's obviously going to be a problem. And of course, with physical touch, if you are abusive in this area and you actually hit someone or do something that is physically destructive, that is going to completely and utterly destroy.
It really robs the bank, doesn't it? Yeah.
So sometimes you might sow some good things into that love bank, but if you do something that's like I would call a critical area and it's totally destructive, you can actually have that bankrupt bank account overnight like that by doing something that is really seriously wrong. So other areas that can go wrong are obviously quality time. If you spend all your time at work, never come home, and you're always spending time with your mates on the sporting field, or you're out at the gym constantly, or you're out with your girlfriends constantly, or you spend all your time with your children and you never spend any time with your spouse, obviously that is another way of robbing the love bank.
That's right.
Yeah, so, and with acts of service, if you, that one's pretty easy, if you just leave your wife to do all the housework and you just sit there like you're the king of the castle and expected to be waited on hand and foot. And we have seen people that are like this, haven't we, Ian, that think the wife, she does all that type of work and you just sit there and demand this and demand that. It isn't going to help that love bank. In fact, you'll be making so many withdrawals that maybe the nice things you do aren't going to make up for much. Now, I don't know, I'm thinking about with men with acts of service. What type of acts of service might rob from a man? And I'm just trying to think there. A wife that never cares about the house and just leaves everything in a total mess. What type of things in this area do you think that men might feel robbed in acts of service?
Well, I guess, men, we do like our food, don't we?
Oh, yes.
And if ever we...
Forgot about this one.
And sure, I love cooking and you do too.
Yeah.
We cook for each other, but if all you ever served up was spaghetti every night and I loved a really nice meal, or if it was always just pizza takeaway or something, then I guess I wouldn't feel particularly loved in that area.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess the thing is here, we don't necessarily really understand each other.
Yeah, that's true.
And so in this interactive we're going to get you to do now, we want you to just think about those things that make withdrawals from the love bank and those things that make deposits.
Yeah.
And also in the next session, we're just going to be talking about the banker. Now, there is someone who actually is the banker. Even when you invest money, there is a banker behind the name of that bank. And so it is with love. There is a banker. And really, he's the one who really understands the other person and how to best invest, you know, to get good advice.
That's right.
So in this next session, this interactive, will get you to work out what makes withdrawals, what makes deposits, but also in the next session we'll look at who that love banker is and how you can get the best advice on investment.